So in part 1 we looked at how chord substitutions work within our key, and we introduced some chromaticism through looking at secondary dominants. But now we're going to roll up our sleeves and delve much deeper into this sphere as we focus specifically on dominant chord substitutions. Dominant function chords are tense by their very nature, which gives us a lot of leeway with regards to accepting notes from outside the key. This is why dominant chords often contain chromatic extensions and why we have so many options for chord substitutions. Both major and minor keys contain diminished chords within the dominant family, and these can substitute for the primary dominant and vice versa. In major keys, the diatonic leading tone chord is half diminished, but we can intensify it chromatically to a fully diminished seventh chord for a stronger dominant colour. In minor keys, both the fully diminished leading note chord and the half diminished versions are available, and either can substitute for the primary dominant or for each other, depending on how much tension we want to create. We can also use this move for secondary dominants. We can use the minor chord 4 and the flat 7/7 chord to replace our usual 2/5 progression. In major, these are borrowed chords from the parallel minor. We can of course also use these chords in minor itself, but as they're already diatonic to the key, they really just sound like a weaker version of a minor 2/5. But in major, they add a lot more colour, as the resolution is much more startling. Of dominant chord substitution is really the tritone sub. We can find this a tritone interval away from our normal dominant chord. And down to the symmetrical nature of the tritone interval, this chord shares the same tritone and therefore guide tones as our normal dominant. This means we get the same clinical resolution as our normal 5/7/1 progression, with a total change of colour. We can use the chord by itself as just a straightforward substitute, or like with our secondary dominants, we can add the tritone sub's 2 chord from its own key. We can keep moving further back down this chain, ending up with an entire key that we can dip into a tritone away from our home key. Now we really are spoiled for choice, as we can use the chords and secondary dominants associated with our home key, the chords diatonic to the key of the tritone sub, and the secondary dominants associated with that key. This gives us a lot to mix and match.